This is the plaintiff, Kevin. He says his neighbor did some extensive construction on his house, and he left an unsafe brick cornice that was in danger of falling. He went around in circles with the defendant to have it fixed because he was afraid it was going to kill someone. His neighbor ignored him, so he had it fixed because it was a real danger. The defendant refuses to reimburse him for the work, and he's here suing him for the $1,635 he's now owed. This is the defendant, Anthony Smothers. He says the plaintiff is not being truthful about the bill he presented to him regarding some work that needed to be done on the common wall between their properties. The guy hired a plumber to do his brickwork and wants him to pay for it? No way that's happening. And he thinks the judge will agree with him here today. He's accused of not being neighborly.
All parties, please raise your right hand. The People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Williams is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. Kevin, you're suing your neighbor, Anthony Smothers, for $1,635 that you say you are out as a result of some construction and remodeling that they did in their place. Talk to me.
Well, just like you said, Your Honor, what basically happened, the gentleman that's over there, he basically tore down his entire home down to nothing and rebuilt the home. Beautiful home. He did a really good job with it. But in the interim, as you'll see some of the pictures that I've shown, it was a little bit of brickwork that was lacking. I didn't notice it at first. It's a rental property of mine. And I came over there to, inspect the home. And I noticed that there was called a stair step brick that's up at the top of the roof. I noticed that was coming down. I immediately jumped on it and I said, oh, this is a problem because it's going to fall right over top of the steps that allow someone to come into the home. So I contacted Mr. Smothers and let him know, I said, hey, I think we got a problem here because I had contacted him before with other work that he had done to the house. And we were very good. I mean, he had a good contractor to hold 10 yards. So whenever I had a problem, I immediately contacted him and he corrected it.
How long was the construction going on next to your rental property?
Oh, goodness. It had to be about a year to a year and a half.
Okay. This is a picture of what you're talking about, step decorative brick. So this is what, on the second story?
Yes, that's all the way up at the roof. As you see the brick itself, it looks like a stair step going up.
Yeah.
And that's what we share. If you look to the left of that, that's his property. To the right is mine.
Okay. How old is the building?
Oh, goodness. The building has got to be at least 60, 70 years old or maybe more.
Okay. Now, Mr. Smothers, you folks did like a really huge remodel. Tell me what you guys ended up doing. Did you really take it all down to the ground and start over?
Is what you call a duplex conversion. We put another third story on it. We ripped it all the way down, took off the front of the house, and put a new front on the house and brought it up another story. And it's got a rooftop deck and everything else.
I want to go. That sounds awesome. Do you rent it out?
Yes,
is it an investment property for you or somewhere where you live?
Yes, it's a rental property and it's basically in the family's name. It's run by myself and a couple of my brothers.
Okay, there's an orange brick, red brick, and the painted red one. His house is the painted red one. The one that he owns as an investment property is the painted red and black one. Yours is the one next to it. Now, Mr. Kevin, according to you, there's a problem, and you noticed the problem when? After the construction?
Yes, the construction was totally completed. I happened to go over to the house, and then that's when I noticed that stair-step bricking was falling away from the house. Now, if you notice, that stair-step bricking is right over the steps of someone to come in the house. So I immediately panicked, as you would think, because I'm looking at this brick way up there 2 stories up. If it falls, it's going to kill somebody. So I immediately contacted him, and we discussed it. He was like, wow, that sounds like a problem. What are we going to do? I said, well, we have to get that taken down before it falls. He was like, it's on your side. I'm like, okay, yes, my side, if you want to call it that, we share that wall. But I'm looking at it, and you cut the brick all the way down to the ground. He was like, well, it's your side, whatever. I said, well, listen, I'm not going to debate this at the present moment. I have to get this taken down because if it falls, it's going to kill somebody. So I immediately made a call to a roofer. He did an emergency run for me. He came out, he looked at it and was like, wow, yeah, you're right. That's where I got a couple of the closer pictures. That was from him tearing it down. Once he tore it down, I contacted him back and said, hey, listen, it's torn down. What are we going to do about this? And that's when the debate started.
And what did he say?
He stuck to his guns and basically said, hey, it's your side. I feel as though that there's nothing that I can do about it. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, okay.
These photos were taken by the person who you paid to go up there, who was a roofer?
Yes, he was a roofer. Again, because I saw that it was up on the roof, so I thought it was a roofing problem.
Okay, so what did he do? Remove this whole thing, or what did he do to make it sturdy?
All the loose bricks that were there, he pulled off. The ones that he didn't have to pull off, he left remaining. But there was some that were there that were good and some that weren't.
Okay.
Once he did that left like a gaping hole up on top of the roof. A part of it was the masonry and then also the roof itself. So he put.
Do you have pictures of the gaping hole on the top of the roof?
No, I do have pictures of where he put the tarp at, and you can see where the tarp is over.
Is this a picture? Let's take a look at this. Is this part of the tarp sticking out?
Yeah, you can see it there.
All right, so you end up hiring somebody to rebuild the brick, correct?
Yes, it was a combination of two things. What ended up happening was, again, once Mr. Smothers and I couldn't come to an agreement, I went to my insurance company. I had them to look at it. Because I originally said, well, listen, I don't care what it is. I'll pay half. I don't care. Whatever. Let's just get this fixed. So I got the insurance company to come out, and they looked at it. And he says, no, it's poor construction. And I got a form from him that states that.
So are you saying that at one point you said to Mr. Smothers that you would pay half and he would pay half?
Yeah. Yes,
All
I
right.
did.
So then the insurance company tells you this is poor workmanship, and you then say, no, now I want you to pay the whole thing. And then he says what to you? I'll pay half?
Not right away. Right away, he just said, no, I don't think it's any of it. I said, now that I got the insurance company telling me that it's poor workmanship from your people, I said, I'm not paying anything.
Well, in fairness, they don't say from his people. Don't get greedy. All it says is poor workmanship. That's what they say. Now, his position, Mr. Smothers, is that the poor workmanship, the only workmanship that happened was when your guy sliced it in order to do your construction. So, according to him, but for your construction, he wouldn't have to spend any money. So why should he have to spend this money? What's your response to that?
The 1501 and 1503 fell down in the 1970s. And when the houses fell down, my grandfather used, rebar. And with the rebar, he rebarred his house on the corners together and stopped it totally from fixing and fixed it so his house wouldn't fall, his front wouldn't fall down. This was in the 70s. They put star boats, if you look at the front of their house. You see them stars in the middle?
I do.
Star acre boats.
Okay, but Mr. Smothers, what I'm asking you, what does this have to do with what we're talking about?
Okay, so their house was already falling down. The front of their house was falling down already.
Says who?
If you go to one of the
Wait, stop. That's where I don't get the front of their house is falling down already based on the fact that there's star anchor.
That was a temporary fix in the 1970s.
Listen, let's try it this way, Mr. Smothers.
Okay, sure.
Here's the picture before the rebuild. You see these bricks?
That's correct.
They appear to be half on your property and half on his, right? They're in fact two-toned. All right, here's a picture after the rebuild. Now, all of a sudden, the bricks are all on his place. Somebody moved the bricks. And when somebody moved the bricks, the way they did it when they knocked your place down is they literally sliced the mortar that was keeping the bricks connected by your two houses, which is fine. You have the right to beautify your property. The thing is, if it affects his property, why isn't he right that you should pay the whole bill? Because clearly they weren't falling down before. We know that they weren't falling down before the rebuild. You can tell me that they were because there's stars in the front of it, but I don't see them falling down before the rebuild. So something you did, your guy moved them to his property, and then they ended up being a disaster that had to be fixed.
I understand.
And thank the good Lord they didn't fall on someone's head and kill them.
I have another picture where you can see where the crack was going and where their part was falling down. They were falling down. If you look at...
Yeah, I see terrible cracks because your house went down. Your house used to be there.
I had it cut. I took the
Yes,
front
I
off.
know you cut it, but right. But what am I supposed to see that's terrible about his house when your house went down that was holding it? Yeah.
Yeah, that crack is where their house is separating from the front.
How does that, sir, listen. Okay. This is like so simple. You see how this is all in front of his house right now after your construction?
That's correct.
Right,
That's
but
correct.
we all know from this picture that you helpfully provided, which incidentally, Mr. Kevin, you didn't. From this picture, we know that it used to be half and half, right? And we also know that your house, this entire left part of this picture, was sliced down. You're going to tell me that that's not what caused the brick to be a hazard and to all of a sudden not be tightened together? Yeah, I'm not going to buy it. $1,635 verdict for the plaintiff.
Well, that was a pretty quick decision. The judge has found for the plaintiff for $1,635, Mr. Smothers. Listen, can you still be friends with him even though he sued you?
I just have to deal with it as a neighborly thing. So I would try to deal with him on a business level from now on.
Kevin, I'm sure you feel better now. The judge has ruled in your favor, and you're going to get that $1,635. Can you get along with him now? Do you think it'll be okay to...
I never had a problem. Like I said, from the beginning, with all the construction, everything he did, whenever I had a problem with anything, he sent the contractor right over immediately. We had a good rapport, conversation-wise. You know, I mean, I think the man's a good businessman, to tell you the truth. It's just, I think it was more principle on this side than anything else.
All right, Harvey, what's your perspective on this case?
Doug, I'm going to make this short and sweet. Look how important photographs are to win a lawsuit.
I saw a clip of Judge John presiding over a vile and heinous defendant on a true crime show. How difficult is it to separate from these horrible cases and not take them home with you? I can't imagine.
You've been through that probably as many times as I have, but I know the case that this person's talking about. It was the one at the Southwood Middle School in Miami where a 14-year-old boy stabbed his best friend like 25 times and killed him. And it was just awful. Ended up moving the case to another city because of pretrial publicity. And
that's right. You went to Orlando for like a month or something.
Right. And at that case, I still relive it all the time. I mean, those cases kind of inflict a little bit of PTSD on the lawyers, the judge, and the others who are associated with it and spend all that time in the courtroom.
Because you see the suffering not only of the victim's family, you also see the suffering of the defendant's family.
Absolutely. But you've had this with cases that you've had either as a prosecutor or as a judge, right?
Yes.
It's just that you can't get them out of your head. You can't unsee the photos. You can't...
You know what's interesting? I think that I remember once where I had a case that was a very bad child abuse case, and I was trying it with my friend Jackie, and Jackie had just become a mother with my godson, Bobby.
Right.
And Jackie came in, this is back when we used to have, rather than having all the digital photos, we had 8x10 glossies. Right. So the 8x10 glossies had come in, they had been developed. So she came to my office to see them, and you know, part of that process is seeing, you start to craft how you're going to start trying the case because you realize all the evidence, you're looking at all the pictures and seeing the evidence, and part of it is to desensitize because they're very graphic. Right. And so she's looking at them, and she just broke down and she's the toughest woman I know. She just broke down and had like a nervous break. I'm like, you got to toughen up. You know, if you're going to try this case with me, you got to. It was so easy before I was a mother.
Yeah.
It was just easier. It just, I don't know why. I didn't, I now, you know, once I became a mother, just think of everybody as somebody's child, and everything is so graphic and horrible and personal.
It changes you.
Yeah, it just kind of tenderizes you.
Absolutely.